Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Mile a Minute Movie Talk. This is your host, Dylan, aka Diligent Picks, along with Lucas of Ligure Films. How you doing,
Hello,
Lucas?
I am here. I am doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. It's been a minute since we did a Mile a Minute.
Yes, it has.
What has been going on lately in the world of movies?
Um, it's not a bad time to take a little bit away, but there's been some bigger releases. You have like Super Mario Bros. Dominating the box office and stuff like that. But we're not here to talk about those. We're here to talk about the sleeper hit of the season.
This the the movie that no one's gonna see coming that we are calling for possible Oscars campaign? Possible?
Yeah, possible. Definitely award season buzz, in
Is
my
it
opinion.
is it gonna pull in everything everywhere all at once and hold out
No.
for Well, I'm not saying it's gonna win Best Picture, but I'm not
Oh yeah,
saying
no, I don't even think it'll be nominated, but it might make a short list.
yeah, well, we will not leave you hanging any longer. This movie we are talking about is BlackBerry, not the fruit, the smartphone. Yes, there is a movie
Yes. And you're
about.
probably thinking another biopic movie, but it's different, okay?
Tell us how it's different, Lucas.
It's good.
Oh yeah, it is
But
very good.
it's very much more comedic than most. But it kind of just feels more realistic. It feels very much in the vein of Social Network rather than like everything else that's coming out recently. That's like the biopics about this and the biopics. Tetris just came out. Then there was the one about Paint, which was the unauthorized one about Ross, Bob Ross. So it's like you've had a lot coming out recently that haven't been getting great reviews, and so this one is getting garnering good reviews still, for the limited amount of theaters it's in. But it's definitely was a great watch for us. I personally have been a big fan of Matt Johnson for as long as he's been making movies. I saw his first movie when it got first put on streaming, and then since then I've been a huge fan. I own all of his physical releases that are pretty rare for his TV shows. I have his first movie, The Dirties. Then he did Operation Avalanche, took a break, did Nirvana the Band the Show, which is an awesome show. If you find a way to watch it, watch it. Um, and then he did Blackberry, which came out starring Baruchel and Glenn Howerton, and also Matt Johnson, who acts in this movie. Pretty much plays the same character in all his movies, but he's like a fun uh, acting director, and he's very good comic relief.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into with this movie before you told me about it. I didn't look anything up.
Yes.
Um, I don't think I don't even recall if I actually saw like any reviews or anything. I knew who the cast was. You had told me about Glenn Howerton and Jay Baruchel, and I was like, all right, okay, I'll give it a shot. And to be honest, I was going into it thinking like, all right, it's gonna be a fun little biopic movie about BlackBerry, great. And I came out thinking, wow, that was just a damn good movie, like a very well made, just surprisingly like refreshing movie. Like
Yeah.
there was so much about it that I really enjoyed, and we saw it together at our local theater
hmm
with a really nice crowd. If you're
Yeah, it
able
was
to,
about 20 people.
yeah,
It was pretty nice.
if you're able to see this with a few other people, I think that can possibly enhance the experience because it is a comedy. It's
Yeah.
definitely a mix of you got comedy pretty much consistently throughout the film, other than maybe kind of near the end, but it's also got a mix of at times almost like a thriller, and
hmm
then it's by the end of it you get pretty much a drama.
Yeah, yeah. It has this great like character study drama between like all the characters and their journey throughout the film. Kind of had the shark character in Glenn Howerton, who comes in to this company that's founded by two dweebs essentially that don't know how to run a company, in Matt Johnson's character and Jay Baruchel's character, and they they both are very kind of Matt Johnson's like the one who makes the decisions, and Jay just kind of goes, or yeah, Jay's character just goes along with it. That's kind of how it goes. But then because they realize how down in the dumps their company is, they finally he finally kind of like steps up Jay and goes behind his back and kind of gets Glenn Howerton's character to come in, and it forms the beginning of BlackBerry, and it's very interesting. But it has a lot of like heart and touch, which I really like with Matt Johnson's stuff. He very much puts it in a world, in our world, and like has a lot of references that aren't like the basic like Ready Player One references. They're like some of them are like more niche or more catering towards specifically what you're trying to go for. And so he took a lot of inspiration from the actual character he played, and like finding old photos of him, and he's like wearing Star Wars shirts and like Doom shirts. He wears like Army of Darkness and all that because he was like a movie nerd, early RTS game nerd. All those guys were they liked all like the Wolfenstein and Doom games, and so they have that very prominent in the film. And then also they have like a reoccurring movie night thing, which is kind of a funny thing that becomes a tension point in the film.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the, like, I mean, for you and I, we joked
Yeah,
afterwards because we were like, man, if we ran a company, that's exactly what we would do.
exactly.
But the thing that I really took away from it was, when you bring up those references and those Easter eggs, like even though as a gamer nerd myself, even though I didn't have that, like I didn't play a lot of those exact games, I'm familiar with them. Like
Hmm.
I would say even for people who are not, that wouldn't get the references or wouldn't know what the heck they were playing or doing,
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily play a role in your enjoyment of the film in any way because of the way that they
tell their
incorporate
story.
yeah, because the way they tell the story and incorporate them, you sort of understand like a lot of the references and instances where like the games or the movies where like those things come into play. It's all kind of, yeah, like you said, it's to tell a story and to show um the way when those moments are placed, it's almost very specifically like uh, to incorporate like some humor or to show a point being made, or later there's a reference that like you start to realize that okay, at the beginning these guys were just fluent, they worked hard, they played hard, but then as the time went on, they were forced to like work hard. It was like
Yeah,
they just couldn't really play around anymore because of the stakes and because of the people that were involved. At one point, there's this guy that gets hired who's like this huge, like scary, just
yeah. That's
executive.
Michael Ironside.
Michael Ironside.
Yeah,
He plays this big old executive who's like the scariest guy to work for, and he pretty much ruins the fun, right? And
yeah. That's his job.
yeah, and so you sort of he's like the enforcer, and so you see the relationships change over time and how like it gives you this sense of like how special some of this stuff was for the characters. You really feel their love and joy, and then you see it ripped away from them and taken away, and you see that how some of the characters, particularly like Matt Johnson's character, he's kind of the same guy throughout this whole experience, but then you have Jay Baruchel as Mike and Glenn Howerton as what was it, Tim or Tom, or I'm trying to recall, he played the Mr. Balsillie. I can't remember the first name, but um,
Yeah, I can't remember.
he ends up, those two change. Like, well, Mike especially changes over time, where he becomes like, at with the success, you
Hmm.
see the downfall. You see like where all the things that he dreamed of started. He starts to change his view. He starts to, there's this big reference to producing things in China, and he's super
Hmm.
against it. And you see him have to weigh that throughout the film. So the film they did a great job in like finding little moments that you don't think are going to be that significant, but then all of a sudden they come up later and you realize how important they actually were.
Hmm.
I'll
Yeah,
give you.
I. The attention to detail was there just throughout it. Like a lot of the technology was great. The soundtrack's great too. There's some like really good artists I like. Like Slint was one of the songs in, and they're like one of my favorite bands.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought that that was really cool. But yeah, it has that the transitions between time periods is really cool. It's like the text on the phone, BlackBerry of that time
Hmm.
being used for that, and kind of just the journey of them is really what like draws you in because you're like, okay, where are they going to take this? There's a lot of all outward people, outside people that you kind of run into and stuff. There's like Verizon, you get to see the evolution of them alongside them. You have like the rival, I think it's Boston Dynamic guy, who keeps trying to buy them and like said he's going to try to like hostile takeover by buying all their
Oh,
stock.
Carrie
So there's like
Elway's
all
character.
these, yeah. So there's all these like fun different parts going on. That's really interesting, and it doesn't feel like a dramatized story most of the time. There's parts where you're like, oh, this doesn't feel real, but also it's just like comedic, mostly in that point when that happens. But a lot of the like characters get to like really come out like as actors too. Like Matt just goes in on being like this pestering just nerdy guy who knows what he wants to do with the company and knows what him and his friends want, and he's not trying to make it the biggest company ever. Whereas Glenn Howerton really gets to unleash his rage throughout the whole movie, which I love. Like, there's just so many scenes of him yelling at people and like being this like tough as nail hards guy, which is kind of like how the character who he's playing is Jim Bolasek or whatever you said.
Vasily, yeah.
Basili, yeah. Jim Basili is. And Mike Lazaretti, Jay Baruchel's character, is kind of just there, and he kind of plays himself, but he kind of just like he's kind of that character too. He doesn't he has like his voice, but he doesn't seem like the normal Jay that you've seen in movies, which I really like. But I really one thing was cool was like showing the like dynamic of the company too, and like how they evolve and kind of become like this just kind of toxic bro company of nerds instead of like a bunch of frat bros or a bunch of like nerd bros. And then they like slowly when they get bigger, they kind of like are like, oh hey, yeah, there's a girl there, but like it's not really a good place for women to work because it's just a bunch of nerds who have been given billions of dollars.
Mm, yeah. I actually, I think we were both watching a video on YouTube that was Matt Johnson responding to like uh, tweets from or not tweets but letterbox reviews,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
one of them he actually touched on the that concept of the what the tech life was like back then, where there was a
Hmm.
lot less women in tech, and how the industry was, and he said like a lot of the humor and like the things specifically tied to that were very intentional to show like how awkward it was for a lot of women at that time
Yeah.
in that industry. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot of people who never had checks and balances until like the end of the movie when they weren't the top because they just kept going up and everything they did was right once Jim joined them. And then once they hit something, they didn't know what to do and everything came falling down because it was kind of like they knew what they could get away with and they were just doing it on Jim's part. And then the other guy just went along with their ideas and what they already did. And it was pretty interesting to just see like how inept they were at dealing with adversaries when it came in because then they just collapsed immediately
hmm
because it was never made to be like, oh, we had this one gimmick and once it's obsolete we don't know what to do.
yeah,
Yeah, it
they,
was when they introduce when they have the iPhone press conference in the movie, it kind of feels like you're watching like the D-Day bomb or like 9/11 from like their point of view because it's like the end of the world to them.
yeah, and
So that was like a great scene in how it was shot, and they're all just standing there, just like s- death stricken, and they're like, "Get back to work!" After like, "We this isn't gonna affect us. It's dumb."
yeah. And one thing to comment again on like the great filmmaking, the way they handled that was like I love that the footage they used in that instance was to my understanding the real footage of the
Yeah, it was
conference.
100% the real thing.
Yeah, but the movie itself, even though it is starring, it's not a documentary. It's filmed as if it is, and it does come
Hmm.
across as if you really are watching a documentary. If I didn't know who Jay Baruchel was or Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, if I didn't know, those actors, I would have sworn I was just watching, the story unfold before my eyes because
Yeah.
they filmed it.
Um.
They filmed it in such a way where we saw like, like at first, you can sort of look at it like a similarity to like watching The Office and the way it's told, or in the shots, but
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Exactly.
but much higher budget with the filter and the look of
Hmm.
it to feel like you're in that 90s and early 2000s, and then as well as there's a lot of even though like there are a lot of like over the shoulder documentarian style shots, there is also a lot
Mhm.
of really creative, great cinematography moments as well.
Yeah. That has a lot to do with the chemistry. Just me knowing who they are. Between Jared Rabb, the cinematographer, and Matt, Jared Rabb, Matt, and the guy who did the score, Jay McCarroll, all went to York University together, and some of them knew each other before that. Forget in like high school or like a little bit earlier. So they've all known each other for 15, 20 years, and they've been making stuff together since Nirvana the band the show the web series, which was on in 2007 2008 is when it started, but they posted it on their website that they made. And so they've been shooting stuff together for about 15 years, and Jared kind of has that signature style because that's kind of how they shot Nirvana and how they shot the Dirties, his first film. Operation Avalanche kind of tones it back a little bit because it's not supposed to be as much, but also they're using different equipment, and so they can't like do all the wieldiness. But in this, it kind of really fits it, kind of being like a fly on the wall and kind of like being there. It really feels like you're just watching all this go down. And a lot of the creativity comes from like the past experience of them shooting very similar things, in which I really like. I should email him because I have his email. I have Jared's email, and so I've talked to him before, and I was gonna see if we get him on a future episode. That'd be cool. But the he's just like a really skilled cinematographer in emulating a certain style that he needs to for exactly what he's doing, and kind of have a lot of like comedic control as well with the camera is like a very specialty of him. You see in Nirvana the band the show, but you also see like at points in this movie like his control and maneuverability of like framing and character character framing and subjects in certain shots just makes it like even more funny. And there's just like I there doesn't need to be jokes sometimes in this film. It just looks funny because of how they're showing it to you because it's supposed to be funny because of
Hmm.
the situation. And I think that goes a lot in between Matt's vision and Jared's cinematography, which I love.
There's definitely a lot of brilliant visual, uh, no, non-verbal humor, which
Yeah.
which is really hard to do well. Like there's a specific moment in the film that I love when like Matt or his character, I'm trying to recall his character's name, um, but he's Mike's best friend, and he's trying to like um, help him out throughout the movie. And there's a moment where he is listening in on a conversation through a window, and he's trying to talk through the window, and he can't tell if they can hear him, so he keeps asking like, "Can you hear me?"
He
And then,
just keeps yeah, it's a scene where they're like trying to get new people and he just keeps saying the guy who invented Doom
yeah,
his name. And so he's like, "Why? Get him.
yeah,
Hey, you guys should get him." And he just keeps repeating it, and then the conversation ends. And then Jay Baruchel's mic turns to him, and he's like, "Yeah, Mike, can you hear? You guys can hear me, right?
yeah,
Can you not hear me?" And he like goes to open the door. He's like, "I can hear you." He
yeah.
just walks away. It was it's super funny.
Yeah, yeah. It ends with like him banging on the window, and like
Yeah.
they're like, What the hell?" Yeah, it's like so like there's a lot of great moments like that throughout this film.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. I think you also get to the point where you really do. It's one of those films where you do really start to care for the characters and what they're going through, and start to feel bad. Like when you see them get to this point, like and you see the downfall. And for someone who was never like, I never actually owned a BlackBerry, and I did own the very first iPhone. It was definitely a trip to see the evolution of that, and like the pinnacle of that, and I never realized truly how successful BlackBerry was.
Yeah, from being like 45% of the market to none today is like crazy.
Yeah, and you certainly see like um you definitely learn a lot throughout this film, and I feel like they just did a great job of really putting their heart and soul into something that could have just been written off as like a fun, entertaining movie. Almost like it could have gone like fully what's it called, like the Weird Al Yankovic story. Like they could have
Oh
almost
yeah,
did
yeah.
they could have almost made it like a joke, a whole like
Hmm.
the movie itself. But I'm glad that they didn't, because I personally like this more than that film, even though very different in what they were aiming for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of sums it up for me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can add on. I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
give out. it's like I'm trying not to give away too much because I really want people to check this out.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely check it out. There's been a lot of praise from Matt Johnson too from certain people that have seen it. I know, like Patton Oswalt and like some other people that I saw it just have been really supportive of it and being like that this movie is really going to be a launching pad for Matt into making a lot more great drama
Mm.
and finally having like a big one with big names. As well as he already announced that his next thing that he's doing is a Nirvana the band, the show, the movie. So that'll be interesting. They're filming that this summer. But after that, he's gonna probably go back into like doing some of this and keeping Nirvana and like his two things. But it's just good to see someone who definitely is a fun filmmaker to make something good and then kind of like start to get reward for it. He wrote it and directed it, and he has all his like normal guys in and around the movie with Jay Carroll and Jared Rapp. So it's like pretty cool to see all them like do all their stuff, and I'm just happy. And I was just really excited that the movie was super fun with like a really good cast too. There's a couple characters that pop up that you're like, I might have seen that guy before, like Sung Woo Cho, which is pro ZD, like a YouTuber guy, and he had like a Crunchyroll TV show. He's super funny. See him in it. There's like some references to memes that don't even do it in the movie. It's just like a fun trip. But yeah, definitely if you like Glenn Howard and Always Sunny, watch this movie because he just gets to do like the Glenn rage the whole time, and it's hilarious.
He gets to
And
have one big moment,
yeah,
and it for
yeah,
Always Sunny fans, it is everything.
it's very much like the iconic boat scene when their boat sinks in like season whatever, early season like 3 or 4, and he's just like, I am filled with rage. I am the boiling hell. It's just that. It's so great.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, definitely check this out. We'd love to hear anyone's opinions on it, and once you see it, it is just a fun comedy with just all the hits that you want and nothing too sensationalized. And it feels like you're watching real humans, but also with the comedic parts that you want in a film like this.
yeah, one hundred
Yeah,
percent.
my least favorite thing in biopics is forced conflict because a lot of stories they have to do it.
Mm,
And so this one does it really well and not having forced conflict and it actually having real world conflict that happened between these characters, but it doesn't sensationalize it in any unrealistic way, which I love.
that was actually. I'm really glad you brought that up because I was in the back of my mind. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to add,
Hmm.
and there's this really great visual moment of emotion where you start to, like the movie could have gone so many like cliche biopic cliche, really any movie route where like there's a fallout and they get mad at each other and then they
Hmm.
make up, or that's it, or, like there's this great moment where Matt Johnson's character, he sees this change in Mike, and
Hmm.
he really he can tell that there's like that this is kind of the moment where things really are going to change, and they linger on his expression, and you can just see sort of the life in his face go out for a moment, and how much he kind of just he's how maybe upset he is, but like but the film doesn't turn it into this giant story arc, or like it doesn't overplay it in any way. It really downplays it in a way that's like you just know visually, what's going on inside his head, and that's all you need to know. There's a lot of show don't tell in the best way,
Hmm.
and that was one of my favorite moments in the film, was just how they like the movie takes its audience seriously. It
Hmm.
lets the audience really understand what's going on. It doesn't spoon feed us all the information.
Exactly. Yeah. You. It has like all the means of a like well done drama and just has a good story with it, and the characters and the director are like able to meld this thing that just feels like realistic and also engrossing at the same time, where you don't have to like get yourself distracted at all. And so that's one thing that's really nice. You don't really get uninterested in the movie while you're watching it. There's just always something coming up,
It's
and it
extremely
just
entertaining and
nothing
well
takes you
paced.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely well paced and entertaining. I could not, like, I was pretty much just into it the entire time. And it feels like an hour and a half, and it's 2 hours long.
Hmm.
So definitely one you guys need to check out. Please let us
Yeah.
know if you have seen it and what your thoughts are, and if you're gonna see it after hearing our
Yes.
thoughts.
Please see it.
Well, I'm looking at our time here. I think we can try to fit in some Evil Dead Rise, maybe some
Yes.
conversation,
The movie
maybe.
that came out like a month ago, but
Yes,
we finally all seen it.
we can then include a quick ranking of the Evil Dead movies if we have some extra time.
Hmm.
So we went and saw. No, yeah, we did. We saw it together. I've seen it twice.
Yeah, he's seen it twice. He saw it the second time with me and my girlfriend and our friend.
And Lucas and I rewatched Army of Darkness together, and he finally
Yes,
had seen all the films.
yes, I hadn't seen any of the Evil Deads, and I kind of like purposefully did that until they got like I could either A see them in theaters or B see them in like a 4K setting, and so I was able to finally do that. And so I watched all of them
And now you're a bigger
before.
fan than me. No, no, I.
Meow.
So yeah, for
Okay,
some
me too, fancy
context,
pants.
I've been a big Evil Dead fan for pretty much my whole life, and so I'm always looking forward to the next installment.
Hmm. I have an Evil Dead related gift for you next time I see you as well. It's
Ooh,
sitting to the left of me.
ooh, very nice. I will look forward to the surprise. I I went into this film. I think just thinking it was going to be pretty good. I wasn't sure what to expect because they took it out of the cabin in the woods, and that was something that was so central to Evil Dead. We saw a lot of change in that regard with Ash versus Evil Dead. So when I really
Hmm.
think about it, it's not the biggest stretch or the biggest idea, but the way that Lee Cronin handled it is really what impressed me the most. I think that
Yeah.
he went out of his way to really essentially almost do like an Evil Dead story with all the right pieces and elements that you would have with the cabin, but you somehow transfer all of those things and turn them into something that would be set in an apartment. Everything is there. You got the book, you got the chainsaw, you got the boomstick, you got the deadites, you got, but the way that they incorporate each one, you even got some things we don't talk about and that we can't really talk about on YouTube that Evil Dead is known for,
Hmm.
with some, I will say, frisky trees.
Yeah.
But in the in this film, we have a elevator attack,
Yes.
which was very well.
Electrician's nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Which to me was one of the most creatively cool part of the films, and that we saw the what's known as the Force um, get trapped in this elevator with our lead, who plays the mother of three children, and her sister, who makes an unexpected visit during a tough time in their lives,
Hmm.
when their mom has been going through some kind of separation from the kid's father. And from that moment, you're also dealing with the sister Beth, who found out she's pregnant. So
Yes.
there's a lot of commentary on motherhood, and we see essentially a survival story deep within this. What? How many stories tall was this apartment? It was a huge building.
7, 8,
Yeah.
12, 13.
Um, but you add all that in, and it just added this huge extra layer to the Evil Dead franchise that I don't think we've ever seen before with family. Um,
Hmm.
and I think for me in particular, that really hit me the most. I loved seeing this family dynamic. I thought all the you know, I guess I will say child actors, they all the youth in the film were all very good, especially the youngest actress.
Yeah,
Um,
she was really good. I really liked her.
she just like nailed every like moment of innocence, fear, and but just as well, she also had a few moments where she got to deliver some good comedic lines, and she did that well as and um there were a lot of really cool moments of lore that we've never seen through the interpretations of the Necronomicon.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Because a lot of it has to do with that there's three, and that's kind of how they're approaching this new thing. Is that this is one of the three. The other 2013 Evil Dead was a one of the three, and so the
mm,
original one was the Ash one.
I'm glad you brought that up because I noticed that the second time around when we watched Army of Darkness, there's always been that thing with three Necronomicons. But when I watched that before, the remake came out when it was just the original trilogy, I always treated that moment as just a joke. Like I was like, okay,
Hmm.
this is just like a funny joke. There isn't really three Necronomicons. There's only one true Necronomicon. But in this case, no, there is legitimate. Like I think that is a valid theory that there
Yeah.
is there is actually
I think they
three.
confirmed it in an interview that each one is a different one, and you can tell that by how the books look. They're all different in each one.
Mm,
So the original Necronomicon has the iconic face on it. This one had like a different type of stitching, and then the Evil Dead one looked like it had like another body part on it
the
from the
remake.
2013 one. Yeah,
I know this one had fangs around the around
yeah, yeah,
the binding or around the so that was a really interesting thing that they did as well as making it so that um
yeah. The 2013 one was like stapled together skin.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's always been in my mind that's always just been a natural like they want to recreate the book with each film. They want to give it a new
yeah,
look and which I think is cool. But if they're actually able to incorporate that as like a way to separate them, if there's ever the dream universal crossing project where like you get like Evil Dead 4 combined with the I don't know like the next Evil Dead Rise sequel or something. Like
yeah,
if we ever see something crazy and Bruce Campbell is in, I'm all for it. But I think those
yeah,
days are past. He has all
yeah.
but
That's kind of the
confirmed.
thing. Like with Ash, they did so much content, like Evil Dead versus or Ash versus the Evil Dead, that I don't know if they'll ever go back to that, and they're kind of taking more of the original horror approach that you have from the first Evil Dead movie
Mm-hmm.
that they redid in the 2013, and they're kind of doing in this one. So you don't have like as comedic parts, but you have homages to those comedic parts that are funny,
Yeah.
and I think that's fine. It's
There.
definitely a different breed now, though, and so it's kind of like some people don't like that, and I can understand that, but it's it'd be you'd have to kind of do something interesting because it's taking Ash away from it is like taking a big piece away from it, but you're taking the core story and keeping that. And so if you're gonna keep Ash, you kind of have to continue his story, and it's kind of feels like his story's finished. And there's so much with the TV show that you'd have to like retcon or pick or just like say, oh, none of this mattered, blah blah, blah. So it's like, what are you kind of doing? There's a lot of Ash media in general, like
Yeah.
so many comments and stuff like that. That it's cool to explore other ones, but it'd be cool to have him back at one point. I feel like in the movies, and it said that they want to make a bunch of movies now if this one does well, which it did. But yeah, I,
My only hope is that they don't overdo it like all these other horror franchises have decided to do. I hope that they just
yeah,
continue a slower release schedule because I think Evil Dead is always meant to be something that I mean it's within the context. Evil's never really dead; it's always dormant. So if you can build hype after like another decade, that's kind of that that's from like the long term fans' point of view. I just don't want to see it get played out if they start churning these out every other year, kind of a thing. Because that not only that, but Evil Dead has always been one of the best reviewed, most beloved horror franchises, and I'm really worried that this could lead to if they continue to make a bunch that it could lead to like watered down or just like I'm worried that one day we will get a bad Evil Dead movie. Like
yeah, exactly.
that's
And
my biggest fear.
it's it's like they kind of need to go in a way because now there can't be really another standalone one. You've done all three volumes. You have to do a continuation of one. So either a continuation of one of these that includes Bruce, but there's like who's left, You had like two final girls, and do they want to come back? Do they not want to do horror movies anymore? It's like which way are you gonna go with these? And so that's pretty interesting what the future is because it said that they want to do like a new Evil Dead movie every 3 to 4 years now if this one did good, and it made $100 million more than its budget. So
Wow, I
its
didn't realize
its
it's
budget its budget was 15 to 19 million. It was supposed to go straight to streaming, as we remember, but it instead Warner Brothers was like, okay, we'll put it in theaters, and they put it in theaters, and it made 135 million so far.
Wow. Yeah, I love hearing that. And I know, yeah, I remember when that was announced, the straight to streaming on HBO Max
Yeah,
now to be soon to be Max.
Max.
Um, but I just couldn't believe that they would have even considered that. And then, of course, they thought about it and were like, all right, let's show the trailer. And everyone was like, this looks
Yeah,
insane. And so they were like, okay, trailer reaction is good. It's going to theaters now. So
yeah.
thankfully
It's
they did that.
imagine being the people who decided to put Prey on Hulu now, though.
Oh,
With how
God.
popular that movie was, and like, oh, we just missed out on an easy
It's
$150 million.
like, who are these
Especially
people?
because that came out in October. They would have made like 150 easy.
Who are these people that are looking at these like long-term franchise movies that have been money makers and just like, yeah, streaming.
Yeah, that's streaming. You know, the biggest genre right now, in quantity of movies being released is horror, especially in theaters. And it's like, yeah, I'm not. No, we're not gonna do it. It's the
Yeah.
easiest way to make money. No,
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. That.
it's like superhero and like IP stuff is really popular, but like horror, put 5 to 20 million into a movie, you're easily gonna make 150 with a wide release,
Yeah.
100 with a wide release, unless it's universally panned. Like even some of these really bad ones like made a lot of money.
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's amazing. Like horror really is a money-making genre because
Yeah.
people, there's a reason people, like to go to the theater. There's a lot of aspects to it that people can enjoy, whether, for a multitude of different reasons.
Hmm.
There's a lot of excuses to go out and see a horror film, I think. And even though it's sort of geared toward the younger demographic, there are a lot of, hardcore older fans of horror too.
Yeah, and a lot of these legacy sequels or just sequels in general, like they put Texas Chainsaw Man straight on streaming too.
That one might have deserved it, but in hindsight, it probably would have
That
made
one
a
was
lot of money.
bad, but it would have made money. It was bad, but it was like it would have made money,
But yeah,
especially
that's
with
another
the low
example.
budgets because they're taking the Bloomhouse approach of he's like usually more or less he's like 5 or less, and then 10 million plus on marketing, and then they make a bunch of money. But they're just like, oh, we're gonna put 20 million into a movie and just throw it on streaming. It's like, are you really gonna get that money back? And also, what's gonna hurt you from doing a first on streaming after a theatrical release?
Got it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's there's got I don't know, this whole streaming versus theater thing is going to be interesting for the next few years. I really hope the theaters can hang in there and they
yeah. I feel like the current strike is gonna have a lot on that because there's like very anti-streaming, pro cable, pro movie theatrical
okay.
release.
That's good to
Because that's
hear.
like a lot of thing is that there's like an interview with one of the writers and he was like, I did a TV movie, I've made off this one movie 6 figures. He's like, I made 100 to 150,000 on this movie. He's like, I did a Netflix movie 2 years ago, maybe even he's like maybe even closer to 3 years. So that's like a longer time since that. He's like, I've seen maybe $10,000 from that movie, and it's just not lucrative. And also, they can't. There's no way of revenue because they don't release their subscriber numbers,
Mm,
kind of thing, and they don't like share that. And so it's like, what's well, I mean, if I have the opportunity to go with X Studio or X streaming service, I'd probably choose X Studio. It just
yeah.
depends on like the creative control of that. But like if you're worrying about money and it's like one of your earlier things, definitely people would rather go with studios that won't put something on streaming. And I mean, what hurts putting it in theaters for a month?
Right.
Yeah, like BlackBerry got a limited theatrical release when it was supposed to be on streaming originally because they got picked up by like IFC, and so it got like 500 theaters. And like, oh, that's nice. You know,
Yeah.
just at least like a small release is nice. It's the whole cultivation of that. It's just such a dumb thing. But yeah, very happy Evil Dead has was able to like get out of the reins of streaming. Same thing that's happening with the FNAF movie, which we'll probably talk a little bit about the trailer. I don't know. It was supposed
Yeah.
to only be streaming, and now it's being a theatrical and like same week
Wow.
on the exclusive streaming platform. I think it's Hulu no, it's on Peacock. So
Oh, okay.
Peacock's getting it the same day, I think, or the same week that it goes out in theaters, but it's going to be in theaters. So
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll get into that shortly. Well, how about we jump into our Evil Dead ranking? I thought we could maybe just go
yes,
So we got five films. We'll do start with number five. We'll
Mhm.
just kind of share both share our number five and
Okay.
kind
Should we
of
say it at the same time? Like, that'd be funny
yeah. Okay,
to set everyone
so
off.
um, all right. Let's see. Let me. I think I know mine. So
I
yeah.
know mine.
All right.
Okay.
You're
1, 2, 3.
Evil
Evil
Dead
Dead
2013.
2013. Okay.
Jinx.
Jinx. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that one is good. Like, I'd still say it's like I'd give it like a 7, 7.5.
Oh
I
yeah.
enjoy it, but it's just the weakest out of all of them because it's the rehashed cabin without any of the charm
Mm.
of one and two. Though it has like great kills and blood sequence, it's just no one's like a character that like you really get engrossed by, or like no one's a character that you get really drawn in and like connect with, and you're like, this is like cool and like violent and bloody and glory and stuff, but it's just like I don't connect with it as much as I do the other films.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. When it came out, I loved it, and I thought it, and I saw it at least twice and three times now since then. But um, I think with every, I think I actually loved it at first, and then I saw it again, and I think I may have liked it about the same, if not more. But the last time I saw it, I did kind of feel like I don't like it quite as much as I used to. I think
It
it part
feels longer than it is if you watch it too much too.
Yeah, it could be that. It could just be. I think once you've seen it enough, or once you're familiar enough with the Evil Dead story, there are certain elements where you watch it and you're kind of like waiting for certain moments. You're kind of like expecting things. But I did think, like, from a filmmaking standpoint, I loved everything Fede Alvarez did. But I really, the hardest thing, the thing that I have, this is a personal preference that I have a difficult time with now is the amount of gross uh,
Yeah.
gags and gore, and of all the Evil Dead films, there's always something gross, but like this one took it to a whole nother level, and especially when you watch it in 4K, you can really see certain things almost too clearly, if you know what I mean. To
Yeah,
where
it goes like too far, and I know like what they're going for. It's just like, I'm not a fan of the Terrifier films. I've seen all those, unfortunately, because I was like, how goes for these? I just watched those like I think I watched those like a month before Evil Dead. I was like, I'm gonna prepare myself, and I was like, oh, I hate this. There's At least those have no substance, though. That's kind of like the thing with those. But
gotcha.
with Evil Dead, it's like there's a story and there's actual substance in it, but it's like it just goes a little bit too far, and you're just kind of like, okay, to the point where it's not always gross or like over the top for you, but you're just kind of like, I don't really just want to watch. It's kind of boring. It was like this is
Mm.
like too much to the point where you're kind of just taking me out. It's like, okay, this again, and then you go further, and then like, okay, this again, and it's kind of like it's going to happen because they draw out the build up to it, and you're like, well, I know this is going to happen. It's going to be gross, and I really don't care.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good way to sum it up, and I just think um, th there are certain things about it that I absolutely love how they did it, and like I'll always remember. But um, it's harder for me to sit through and really enjoy it anymore. Like
Mm,
enjoy it as much as I did when it came out, because there was a lot
yeah,
of hype at that time for me,
yeah.
like waiting for
Yeah,
an Evil
once
Dead movie.
the honeymoon phase kind of wears off and you have a newer one as well, so you're like, oh, I like this one a little bit better. I like this one better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, so let's
Number
name
four.
our number four. I'll let you do your countdown again.
1, 2, 3.
Evil
Evil Dead
Dead Rise.
Rise. Okay.
We did not prepare this, guys.
We
We
did not. I feel like we'll have a little bit different after this, but I don't know. But yeah, Evil Dead Rise. I think I would give that a really good rating compared to the other one. It just doesn't have Bruce Campbell. That's the only thing. I mean, it
well,
technically does. He's on the record as the guy that says it's called the Evil Dead. It's called the Book of Dead for a reason, dumbass, or whatever. But it just that's kind of the aspect that's missing. It is more interesting because you're in a different scenario and stuff. It goes through the same waves and stuff, but I like the characters in this film more
hmm
than 2013. Um, the story is a little bit more interesting. There's a little bit more background. I like the little bit of lore behind the Necronomicon. The mise en scène and like how everything works is very like I wouldn't say realistic, but like believable. Like, you're like, "Oh, no, she's gonna freaking let her mom in because she's a little dumb girl." And she almost does, but she doesn't, and then the mom's like, "Oh, there's an air vent." And then she just goes up the air vent and goes in there. It's like, "Oh, that's realistic."
Yeah.
It's like air ducts in an old building. That it's just like everything delves down to. The gore is gross, but it's quick. That's what I like. It's like if it's
Hmm.
shocking, violent, some of them can overstay them welcome, but like the cheese grater scene, I came in thinking that was gonna be worse than it was. That was like what my girlfriend didn't want to see, but like that was like just like a snap of the finger, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's short. The the scalping scene was pretty just quick, but it was there, and you're like, damn. And then like some of the other ones were like pretty bad, but like bad in a good way. But
Yeah.
yeah, certain all the stuff that happened in the kitchen was pretty fun. Um, the the there's a scene with a wood chipper that's awesome.
Hmm.
Not to spoil anything, but yeah, that's like it was a good set piece, and it doesn't like overdo it. It doesn't like, oh, here, let's get a real good close up of the body getting chewed up by the blades, or just like, oh, here's it's getting spit out and like
Right.
raining blood kind of homage, but like a little bit better. It was kind of cool, and I definitely liked it more from a story standpoint, and I like the characters more, and it felt just more something that I wanted to watch throughout the whole thing, and it didn't feel like overdrawn. Um, I do love that you do have to have some dumb person doing something that they shouldn't and getting the Necronomicon, and
There's
everybody
always
hates
that
them for it.
person.
There's
Yep.
always that person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you have to have that. And
yeah.
yeah, and I agree. Like, this one was a lot. Like, there was a lot more aspects to this one that I enjoy watching more. And in the moments where the gross out or shocking moments, they're just not as heavy as the remake 2013 film. And yeah, like some of the instances you brought up, like the beginning, there's a intro scene where someone's like it's like scalped essentially, but it's like you don't really see it happen. You see the aftermath, but you don't really see it. There so like they could have really gone further if they wanted to, but I don't think they were trying to do that with this film. I think they added a little more humor, especially some dark humor in this one, and some really funny lines and Easter eggs. I mean, so the remake had plenty, and so did like they both had plenty, but I guess I just appreciated the ones in this film a little bit more because this one had a lot more Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness in it in terms
Hmm.
of some of the references and some of the
Yeah, that's one thing I totally missed. Yeah, all the stuff from the original trilogy and kind of the banter of the demons and the what are they called?
Deadites.
Deadites. Thank you. I was gonna say Dedicons. I was like, that's weird. Uh,
The
um, but yeah, the Deadites,
Darkons.
like their little banter, just like your mom's with the worms, you little bitch, and you're just like, what? It's like it's fun, like having that. Which in the other one, it was just kind of like rehashes in 13 of the original one, but
Yeah.
these are more in vein of the original series, but with their not being just riffing off of them. They're like, oh well, we're gonna kind of just do some crudeness, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is probably where we're gonna
Yeah, this is
vary
probably
in
gonna get F.
opinion,
Okay.
as most Evil Dead fans do.
Okay. One, two, three.
Army
Evil
of
Dead
Darkness.
original.
Okay, you start.
Yeah. Um these are all like this close. They're like so close. I just don't know really how to rank them. I'm just going to rank them in an order. But yeah, I think this one's really good practically. I love it from that aspect. I don't know, like I really like 1 and 2 are really close for me. Um because I like Bruce Campbell in 2 a lot, but I also just like the horror in 1 a lot,
Mm.
and the practical effects and just the miserable conditions that they filmed it in made them miserable people in the film, so it kind of like makes it better.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like just the more Campbellness in 2 makes me like it. Like Ash just being Ash in 2 makes me like it a little bit more. But I really like 1. And so it's like really hard for me. This is like a 2A and 2B situation because it's
Yeah.
like just hard for me to give a step. I think
Picking your
just
favorite
the
child.
more yeah, the more Ash, I think. But Bruce is just a good actor in this one. He's just like, "Oh wow, this guy's like a good actor and he's really believable." And the other people in the film are good actors and actresses, and you're like, I really like them too. Yeah, just little bit at the beginning, I guess. I'm like a little bit more disinterested. After they get into the house, and it's kind of like 10 minutes of just like getting to the point where the first inciting incident happens.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think I really like that.
Mm. So yeah, Army of Darkness. I love Army of Darkness, and especially after our last viewing, it almost went up. It was like almost like above my next pick, like
Hmm.
because we had such a great experience watching it in 4K, and that is for those of you considering buying it that don't have it on 4K, do
Definitely,
it.
that thing was crazy
Yeah,
nice. You could see so much more, and be like, went back. We put in your Blu-ray, or
yeah.
no? We put oh yeah, we put in this Blu-ray, and we're like, wow, we're like watching the deleted scene, and it's like looks like shit.
And I think I also had my TV settings on poorly, but it just added
Yeah.
to that too. But yeah, so with Army of Darkness, it's so different from the other ones, so far off
Hmm.
the path, but it's like I appreciate the ideas and the craziness of it even more, knowing that it's like I don't know. Like they, like I think just looking as I've gotten older, I've began to notice the filmmaking even more and how like how did they come up with some of the ideas in that film? That's what like I got out of it from this last viewing was like I just couldn't
Hmm.
believe that they actually even did this and that someone came up with the idea to do this. Because
Yeah.
from where Evil Dead 2 ends with him going ending up stuck in medieval time,
It's such
like
a shark jump.
yeah, and but so I don't know, like it's so entertaining and fun, and it's got great one-liners, and Ash is full Ash. It really is like from just a comedic standpoint, it is like it has like the best comedy of any of the Evil Dead films.
Yeah.
So if you just want to watch one and have fun and not worry about horror in any way, this is the film.
Yeah.
This is the one to get fans to come along if you don't want to watch a horror film, but you want to know what Evil Dead is all about,
Hmm.
sort of. So
Next up.
yeah,
Okay. One, two, three.
The
Evil Dead
Evil
2.
Dead original
Ooh.
OG
Oh, gee, 1980.
81. Not the OGO, not Within the
Yeah.
Woods. That was like 1978 or something.
That was.
The original prototype to the Evil
Oh
Dead.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. This I said two. Yeah, I said Evil Dead 2. You said one. But yeah, Evil Dead 2. I pretty much kind of already touched on it, but the,
did you say Evil Dead 2 for the last one, or was that Evil Dead?
no, that was Evil Dead 1.
Okay.
Yeah, so Evil Dead 2 for this one. I did touch on it a little bit though, just comparing them. But yeah, it's really good. They have like a really strong supporting character, obviously in this one, in the Doctor's daughter. And a little bit more interesting um stuff you're doing with the Deadites and how their like possession work and all that, and like the introduction of the chainsaw, and just like all that is just like really fun. And that's what I really like about this film, is that it kind of adds a little bit more fun and a little bit more character and just a little bit more heart, because there's a lot more budget. And so that's definitely where that like what I think about it comes from. And so that's why I really like this one more than the last one, which is Evil Dead Original.
Oh yeah. I'll have plenty to say about that movie shortly.
Hmm.
But yeah, so what did I say? The Evil Dead. So the Evil Dead, the original, will always have a very special place in my heart because
Hmm.
I saw that film first when I was like 8 years old. Never should have seen it at that age, but it left such an imprint in my entire love for horror as a whole, not just Evil Dead.
Hmm.
And I will say, I still think The Evil Dead is probably like my favorite, like just straight, like pure horror film. Because even though
Hmm.
there is some comedy, this film, the comedy in it is very much like unintentional. There's a lot of, bad
Yeah.
acting moments and bad line delivery moments, and just
Yeah.
it just ends up coming across funny, and that's what kind
Yeah,
of,
just a bunch of friends in the wood trying
yeah,
to.
and that's what led to the humor that came in the rest of the franchise. But um, I think I always look back at like how they had no money and they tried to get this done and they ended up barely getting it done. And it was
Mhm.
like, and you're watching this film wondering how did they get this finished? And the effects, especially in this first film, are so practically just insane, especially the actual context they use for the Deadites. Like those look so incredibly uncomfortable, which I heard they are, but also to me, the first film's Deadites will always be the scariest because of not only how real they look and how practical they look, but the actual context they used in those in that first film in particular, they never went back to like that same exact look, and it was so terrifying as a child.
Mhm.
Especially like I'll never get out of my mind the scene where Cheryl is underneath as a deadite under the cellar, and she's trying to push the door open, and she's just like screaming while Ash is getting beat up by Linda or Shelly or some other
Mhm.
deadite, and she's just like trying to get it open. They do this close up of her face, and you see all this like blood running down her mouth, and it's so terrifying. And to this day, even seeing that now, even though I know like it's not truly scary to me anymore, it's still there's something about that moment that always is still terrifying to me. So I
Yeah.
think that pure horror, pure terror aspect is why I can't rank this film any lower because of the impact it had on me, the impact it had on the horror genre, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like I admire the film more than I love the film.
Oh, yeah, I can totally understand that. I would say that I would think like one I would think is my most impactful. Just like I feel like they just like two is a little bit more refined, but one just has like that grit and that experimental and that like freedom that they had while making it. And it
Exactly.
just feels way more like a marquee piece of horror
Yeah.
comparative to the other two in the original trilogy, just because of how it was made and just like how it looks, and it just has that visceral feeling of like dingy, dungy, gross, claustrophobic horror, and that's what really like makes it nice.
Yeah. Okay.
So the last one is obvious for both of us now. One, two, three.
Evil
Army of
Dead
Darkness.
2.
I like comedy and horror.
Yeah.
um, it is like I told Dylan it was great when we were watching it. I was like, this feels like if someone made a rated R version of a Disney like film from like the 90s or 80s. And that's what it feels like at points. It's just like this medieval like screwiness with like a love story, and like this guy is not supposed to be where he is, but he like fights. But it's just so funny. Um I like I guess I like skeletons because that was hilarious. Just like the all the dumb skeleton stuff, and they just got a bunch of different people to voice them. Like Ted voiced a couple of them, and all these like other like character actors would just voice them just because they could. They're like, ah, I'll do your movie for a funny scene. And it just feels like they gave a guy a bunch of money and he made whatever the hell he wanted to, and that's a lot of what I like film wise. I like films that are just like this dude shouldn't have gotten this budget and they gave him too much power. And that's what that feels like. And that's why I like it so much, is because it's just Sam Raimi being like, okay, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want now. Especially with the original or the other ending.
Oh yeah.
The just slap in the face comedy that just throughout this film is hilarious. And it's the most quotable, um, definitely. And there's just all the characters that aren't Ash feel like parodies of characters.
Mm.
They all just are like so almost one dimensional to a point where they don't feel real, and they just feel like they're serving as a plot point, which is hilarious. It just feels like everyone is there to support Ash on his journey in a way that either benefits him or doesn't benefit him, but just moves him along towards another point. And it's funny because you're just watching him interact with these pieces that don't feel real.
Yeah, they
And
definitely.
so it's just so interesting to watch, and I definitely It's the last one I watched. Oh, actually, I watched Rise after, but it's definitely I just like it because it's just so fun.
Yeah, like it's endless entertainment. It really
Mm,
is that film.
mm.
But yeah, it's funny. Yeah, all the characters are just essentially not like they're just there to serve Ash getting from point A to point B.
Yeah,
But in a good way. It's just funny how they end up being those people.
yeah, yeah.
Um, okay,
And
so
Mr. U with Evil Dead 2?
Dead by Dawn. So Evil Dead 2. The reason Evil Dead 2 is my number one is because it is at the end of the day the perfect blend of the first film and the third film in the trilogy. It's got the perfect amount of horror and comedy to make
Mhm.
it to me the most pure horror comedy of the trilogy. But I think that's why I love it so much because at the end of the day, I like a good horror comedy more than horror, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like I love the horror comedy genre, and there are so few really good ones. Like I
Yeah.
could probably do a top 10 list, but there really aren't that many that I can think of off the top of my head even now. And so this film, the pacing is insane. All three of these films have insane pacing. Like they're
Yeah,
all
because they're
81.
also short.
Yeah, they're all 80 minutes to a half an hour, if that, and or an hour and a half. But this one, I love how it starts off with the sort of recap thing, and then um, Ash just getting his butt kicked for like inside the house, just
Yeah.
and it just having giving Bruce Campbell all this time to shine and build up that character more, and the insane scene where all the laughing, you know, all the furniture and all the things in the house just start laughing at him.
Yeah.
And then you see Bruce Campbell, the close up of his face, and he just I'll never forget watching that for the first time, thinking that he actually was going insane
Yeah.
while making that, and I'm just like, he had to be. So, and then of course you end up getting like the rest of the people, the cannon fodder.
Mm.
But and then of course, yeah, the birth of really this is like where Ash is truly born with the chainsaw, with the sawed-off shotgun, and this is where the line comes for the very first time, groovy, which to me is like the most iconic Evil Dead thing.
Yeah.
In that scene alone is probably the most iconic Evil Dead scene. Um, so I don't know, it has so many great elements to it, and it to me it was like especially for what I've heard from interviews, like it sounded like Bruce Campbell and the crew felt that this was the perfect production compared to the other two. The first production was like a nightmare, and then for the original Evil Dead, and then Army of Darkness was had its challenges as well. So it was like this was like the perfect executed film for everyone involved. Like it was just like not obviously nothing was perfect and flawless in terms of how it all went down, but like it seems like everyone had a good time, everyone enjoyed it. It all just
Yeah.
worked out perfectly, and it really
Yeah.
showed on screen and to me it is just objectively like the best film as a whole in the
Mhm.
trilogy. So I love that movie. It's groovy.
Yeah. Groovy.
Well, any other closing thoughts?
No, I think that's it for me. We're just over an hour, but yeah, I feel like definitely one of my favorite. It's one of the strongest horror series, especially five throughout. I feel like
Doesn't have a
I'm a
single
fan
stinker.
of like, yeah, what?
It doesn't have a single stinker.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was gonna say Evil Dead 2013 still clears like half of Freddy, half of Chucky, half of Friday, half of Halloween. Like, still better than half of those movies.
You just
I
made
know
me think.
those have been on longer, but
You just
this is what
think
happens when the director actually keeps their production together in there. And Sam Raimi is now the lead like executive producer on these movies, so
you just
he
made
like chooses and picks, and he knows his vision.
exactly. You just reminded me of that Evil Dead Rise joke where they say like we're gonna watch all the Freddy movies, even the bad ones. There are no bad ones.
Yeah. Yeah, no, literally. Yeah, I
Well,
have the Friday the 13th box set back there somewhere.
we're gonna have to binge that someday. Well, I think yeah, since we've gone a little over an hour, we'll save anything else. We didn't have too much else. We just had, new
Yeah, trailer
releases.
reviews, trailers,
Yeah,
first thoughts, and
just
stuff like that.
yeah, new
Yeah, if you
things
haven't
coming out.
seen them, Flower the Killer Moon trailer dropped today. It's like kind of like it's his teaser, but it's like 2 minutes long, so I don't know. FNAF dropped yesterday teaser. We had Oppenheimer like a week or two ago.
Five
Barbie
Nights at
like a month
Freddy's.
ago. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's, Matthew Lillard, Scream King, Josh Hutcherson,
That's gonna be fun.
uh, of Detention. I've talked about that on a previous episode. Greatest, one of my favorite. But yeah.
One that we will have to watch
Um,
soon together.
Announcement, Dylan.
Oh,
There's a Alamo Drafthouse showing of it in August.
ooh.
So I'll probably have to force you to come down to San Francisco, our closest Alamo Drafthouse, and we'll go see that.
Sounds good. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, because Omar is coming. So
Okay, cool. Yep.
yeah,
We'll make it
they
happen.
announced it because he's the same director as Torque, which we saw yesterday, which
Oh
is
my God, 2013 or
what
2003, Torque?
2004 Torque,
Like the,
same
the like
director.
biker movie?
Yes,
Oh my God.
the so bad it's like hilarious to watch. That was so fun in the theater because everybody's there because they know it's not a great
Pretty
movie, but
sure I
it's so
saw
fun to
that in
watch.
theaters.
Yeah, yeah, we sat there and watched it, and it was just people were just dying the whole movie because there's
uh,
all the dumb jokes, and there was like the scenes where they drive the bike right in front of like a Mountain Dew ad, and everybody was just dying. It was so fun. But yeah, great place to watch movies is Alamo Drafthouse if you have one near you. They have weird Terror Tuesdays and Wacky Wednesdays and other special showings. So
I still haven't gone
yeah,
one day.
you'll be there when we go.
Yay.
But yeah, uh,
Well, anything
I
else?
think that's it for this week. We will probably I know we'll try to watch Guardians of the Galaxy, but if not, we might have our own special showing. I don't know what film it'll be. There's a couple on my list that I've been wanting to show him, like Survive Style 5 Plus, which is a really weird Japanese comedy. Uh, but outside of that, I don't really have any ideas. Something might pop up, but yes.
You guys will have to
Uh,
throw out some recommendations.
yes, the comments are there. Come onto YouTube if you're not on YouTube and just drop a comment in our comments to tell us what to watch, and we'll probably watch it.
Yeah, if
So,
you guys aren't subscribed yet, we're on YouTube, we're on Shopify, Spotify,
Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
all the other podcasts out there.
Yes.
We'd love for you guys to check in with us and
Hmm.
let us know your thoughts and anything you guys have been watching lately and recommend
Yes.
to us.
Yes. And last note from me, on my TikTok, because I don't feel like editing full YouTube videos, I am doing a watching every movie in my collection. I put them all into a wheel. There's like 300 of them, and I'm spinning them, and a lot of them are bad. So my last two I watched was Earth versus Spider straight to DVD movie, starring Dan Aykroyd, and it has like a weirdly weird Pedro Pascal cameo from when he was like a nobody, hilarious. And then before that was Malcolm X. So it's all over the board. It's fun. I just rant about movies after watching them. But yeah, we'll check that out on my TikTok. It'll be down in the link below. But if you don't want to look there, it's at REEL Death, Real Death.
Nice. I gotta
But
get
like
on
the
that
movie
TikTok
Real.
game.
Haha.
See what you did there.
Yes. But yeah,
I gotta get on that TikTok game and check out your stuff.
totally. Yeah. We'll be there.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for tuning in. I know it's been a while. We had to take a little break, but we're hoping
Yes.
to come back and keep doing some weekly, bi-weekly episodes for you.
Yes. Yes. We'll be here probably next week. Probably Guardians of the Galaxy. Hopefully.
Yes.
But yes, we hope to see you soon.
And we will check into my friends might drag me to see Fast 10, so you never know.
Yes.
But you guys have been the best, and thank you again for watching and listening. This has been another episode of Mile a Minute.
Movie talk.